Don and Raphael were the Swami's steady boarders, although during the day they also went out, returning only for meals, sleep, and evening chanting. Occasionally they would bathe, and then they would use the Swami's bathroom up in his apartment. Sometimes they would hang in the storefront during the day, and if someone stopped by asking about the Swami, they would tell the person all they knew, which wasn't much. They admitted that they weren't really into the Swami's philosophy and they didn't claim to be his followers. If someone persisted in inquiring about the Swami's teaching, Don Raphael would just suggest, "Why don't you go up and talk to him? The Swami lives in the apartment building out back. Why don't you go up and see him?" Prabupada usually stayed in his apartment. Occasionally, he might look out his window and see the back windows of the storefront that the light in the closet-sized bathroom had needlessly been left burning. Coming down to ask the boys to turn it off and not waste electricity, he might find a few boys lying on the floor talking or reading. Prabhupada would stand gravely asking them not to leave the light on, stressing the seriousness of wasting Krishna's energy and money. He would stand dressed in khadi, that coarse hand-loomed cotton woven from hmm, Prabhupada, woven from He would stand dressed in khadi, that coarse hand-loomed cotton woven from hand-spun threads, a cloth that to Americans appears somehow exotic. Even the saffron-colored Prabhupada's dhoti and kadra was exotic. Produced from the traditional Indian dye, it was a dull, uneven color, different from anything Western. After Prabhupada turned off the light, the boys seemed to have nothing to say and nothing more appropriate to do than look with interest at him for a long, awkward moment, and the Swami would leave without saying anything more. Money was scarce from his evening meetings. He would usually collect $5 or $6 in change and bills. Don talked of going up to New England to pick apples and bring back money for the Swami. Raphael said something about some money coming. Prabhupada waited and depended on Krishna. Sometimes he would walk back and forth in the courtyard between the buildings. Seeming mysterious to the neighbors, he would chant on his beads, his hand deep in his bead bag. Mostly he kept to his room, working. As he had said during a lecture when living in the Bowery, "I am here always working at something, reading or writing, something, reading or writing, 24 hours. His mission of translating Srimad Bhagavatam, of presenting the complete work in 60 volumes of 400 pages each, could alone occupy all his days and nights. He worked at it whenever possible, sitting at his portable typewriter or translating the Sanskrit into English. He especially worked in the very early hours of the morning when he would not be interrupted. He would comb through the Sanskrit and Bengali commentaries of the great acharyas, following their explanations, selecting passages from them, adding his own knowledge and realization, and then laboriously weaving it all together and typing out his Bhaktivedanta purports. He had no means or immediate plans for financing the publishing of further volumes, but he continued in the faith that somehow they would be published. He had a broad mission, broader even than translating Srimad Bhagavatam, and so he gave much of his time and energy to meeting visitors. Had his only aim been to write, then there wouldn't have been no need to have taken the risk and trouble of coming to America. Now many people were coming, and an important part of his mission was to talk to them and convince them of Krishna consciousness. His visitors were usually young men who had recently come to live in the Lower East Side. He had no secretary to screen his visitors, nor did he have scheduled visiting hours. Whenever anyone happened by at any time from early morning to 10 at night, Prabhupada would stop his typing or translating and speak with them. It was an open neighborhood, and many visitors would come by right off the street. Some were serious, but many were not. Some even came intoxicated. Often they came not to inquire submissively, but to challenge. Once a young hippie on an LSD trip found his way upstairs and sat opposite the Swami. Right now I am higher than you are, he announced. I am God. Prabhupada bowed his head slightly, his palms folded. Please accept my obeisances, he said. Then he asked God to please leave. Others admitted frankly that they were crazy or haunted by ghosts and sought relief from their mental suffering. Lon Solomon. I was looking for spiritual centers, places where one can go, not like stores where they ask you to leave, but where you can actually talk to people and try to understand the ultimate truth. I would come to the Swamis knowing it was definitely a spiritual center. There was definitely something there. I was on drugs and disturbed with the notion that I must be God, or some very important personality way out of proportion to my actual situation. I was actually in trouble, mentally deranged because of so much suffering, and I would kind of blow in to see him whenever I felt the whim to do so. I didn't make a point of going to his meetings, but a lot of times I would just come. One time I came and spent the night there. I was always welcome at any time to sleep in the storefront. I wanted to show the Swami what a sad case I was, so he should definitely do something for me. He told me to join him and he could solve my problems, but I wasn't ready. I was really in I was really into sex and I wanted to know what he meant by illicit sex. What was his definition? He said to me, "This means sex outside of marriage." But I wasn't satisfied with the answer, and I asked him for more details. He told me to first consider the answer he had given me, and then come back the next day and he would tell more. Then I showed up with a girl. The Swami came to the door and said, "I am very busy. I have my work. I have my translating. I cannot talk with you right now." Well, that was the only time he didn't offer me full hospitality and full attention and talk with me as many guests as I had. So I left immediately with the girl. He's correct in his perception that I was simply going to see him just try to impress the girl. He saw through it right away and he rejected the type of association. But every time I came, I was in trouble and he always helped me. So from this passage, we can see that Prabhupada stayed very steady and focused on his translations and his readings, despite how many opportunities people were taking from him as far as using up his bathroom, wasting the electricity and causing high bills, not fully supporting or understanding what his mission was, just kind of taking advantage of Prabhupada's kindness. Um, there, he was encountering people who had no intention or had no interest, but um, he kept his door open, coming to speak with anyone early in the morning till late at night. And he knew that he had to stay focused, so he kept chanting and he just stayed focused.